Hey everyone, thanks for joining. Give me a second, I'm going to just get tuned up. Alright, logged into the Restream chat, so I should be able to chat with any of you on YouTube, Twitch, or Facebook. I don't know why that photo keeps hiding itself. Let me just test the stream output, make sure you guys can hear me. It'd help if I put this mic on. That didn't work. Round 2. There. Hope everyone's having a good morning, or whatever time it is, wherever you're joining from. Alright, testing on Twitch right now. Twitch is playing an ad. Let's test also on ZBrush Live. Alright. Let's just give it a second. You guys might hear some double audio. Let's just give it a second. You guys might hear some double audio. That means it's working. Elbera4 says hi on Twitch. What's going on? RB Gaming, hello sir. How are you? I'm doing well. How about yourself? TK's 3D Print says stream is good. Okay, awesome. Let's get this party started then. Okay, so today what I want to do is my usual. I stream every week, usually for ZBrush Live. So I guess I'll start with a quick primer about myself. I'll do a little show and tell, and then we'll jump into some ZBrush sculpting. So, a little bit about me. I'm a 3D artist in LA. Been here for almost 5 years now. Prior to that, about a decade of experience in commercials and advertising in Chicago. And since I've been here, I've been trying to focus more on the entertainment industry, toys, animation, games, and been doing a lot of 3D printing. So you can learn more about me and my work on aiman3d.com. There's a whole section in there for 3D print and sculpture, where you can see all sorts of projects I've worked on. Masks for my dog, cosplay stuff, concept art, large-scale sculpture, stop-motion animation. So just all sorts of things. And this is my own project. Me and my wife Fa have been working on our own toy line, Fungosaurs, little dinosaur mushroom hybrids. So this is kind of where my head's at these days. I'm trying to build an IP and build a whole world around it. IP, for those of you that don't know, stands for intellectual property. And that's all on fungosaurs.com. So we did, our own designs, character designs. We did a Kickstarter. We 3D print prototyped them, found a factory, and independently mass-produced our own toy line. So you can see more about that on Fungosaurs at Instagram too. Like this past weekend, we were at Monsterpalooza Expo and had a table, and we did really well. We sold a lot of toys. So yeah, stuff like that. That's what my stream is all about, 3D printing ideas to reality. And the main thing I'm focusing right now is building my own IP. That's the idea that I want to become reality. And 3D printing is a tool that I'm using to achieve that. So this stream isn't always going to be about 3D printing. I often do cover a lot of my 3D printing workflow as I sculpt. But it's really sculpting for the sake of having some fun time in ZBrush. Okay, let's move on to show and tell. Let's see. Alright, so today what I wanted to show and tell is not my own 3D print, but a friend of mine, Crystal Land. And I got a toy from her this past weekend at Monsterpalooza, Crystal's Chimeras. And this is her own, not IP per se, but her thing that she's building. And so it comes in a nice pretty box, little bubble wrap. And the one that I picked up is this cute little fellow. Now Crystal sculpts these digitally in ZBrush. She 3D prints them out on her Form 2 3D printer, and then she molds and casts them in all sorts of materials. So I'm going to try to see if I can show you guys. The details is going to be kind of hard to see on this, but it is a glow-in-the-dark piece. It's like a little bat with its tongue hanging out, mixed with, I don't even know what. It's like a puppy. It's like a bulldog or a pug. But I just thought this was really adorable, and it glows in the dark, so had to pick it up. You can find Crystal's work online. Just look up Crystal Land, and you'll come across her stuff. But just wanted to give a shout out because this is Crystal's booth was right next to mine at Monsterpalooza, and we've been following each other online for a while. And the great thing about these kinds of expos is that you get to come together and meet people face to face and just hang out. So we got to have a bunch of fun conversations over the weekend. So yeah, that was Crystal's Chimeras, and that's one example of what you can do. You don't need to go the route I did and mass-produce toys in order to get your stuff out there. You can simply sculpt them digitally, 3D print them out, mold and cast them, make a small run. You know, she sold a bunch of those little guys and the different chimeras that she has over the weekend. So it's quite possible. Continuing the show and tell, what I'm doing is slightly different because I've got these little toys that are injection molded and mass produced. So I've got a whole toy line now. I've got 15,000 of these in a warehouse, and my goal is to get them out in the world distributed. So you can see they're pretty small, little collectibles, and each creature we're developing as a digital character so you can unlock it in augmented reality. So we're making a game to go along with it. But in addition to that, what I wanted to do this weekend was something special. So instead of having just the small ones, I also 3D printed big one. So this is a 3D print off of my Raise 3D N2 Plus. This is an FDM machine print. Looks pretty good, I know. Some little bumps. You can still see the build lines in different parts, but that's not a deal breaker. The Raise 3D N2 Plus is that big machine right there you see next to me. Quite big. 12-inch by 12-inch by 24-inch build volume. And yeah, that was this one. These small ones were print prototyped on a Form 2. A Form 2 is a SLA printer, a lot more high quality detail. You don't see any build lines on something that's Form 2 built. But this is something that I wanted to do for the show, and we're taking pre-orders for a limited time for that bigger scale one. The other thing is, I don't know how many of you have seen this, but I've got this guy. So he's the ultimate, like the big, the really big version. We're not selling this. This is kind of our display that attracts people to the booth. And the puppy dog eyes just do it for them, and I don't have to actually sit up off my table. This guy just brings people to the table. And this was not 3D printed. This was actually subtractive. So 3D printing by definition is additive manufacturing. What that means is that you're somehow adding until you build out the thing you want to build. So how should I explain? Okay, so FDM is additive manufacturing because you've got that fishing reel spool of plastic that melts, and you're adding layer by layer by layer until you get the thing you want. SLA printing is also additive because you've got liquid resin and a laser hits the bottom, and wherever the laser hits it, your piece starts to slowly rise out of the tray. So that's additive. This giant one isn't additive. It's actually subtractive. So it was made with a giant block of foam and an 8-axis robot. So it's one of those robot arms that can bend and pivot in a lot of different ways with a Dremel attached to the end, and it kind of just drilled away the foam until what you're left with was the piece. So it's actually subtractive. The more you know. Okay, so these little characters that I'm developing, I want to tell stories with them, and the stories involved in our human world. They're the fantastical creatures that were created in a lab, genetically made, and got out, accident or espionage, and they're in the world. So now what happens when they're in the world? I want to tell stories of what happens as soon as they're released into the world in the most remote corners of the world, really all over the world. And this gives me an opportunity to create characters, human characters that are all over the world, that I don't see represented in animation very often. So the first one I wanted to start off with was a girl from South Asia. I'm from South Asia. I don't see South Asian characters in animation a lot, so I wanted to start concepting one, and if I don't do it, who will? So the idea is that this character, the little paradox, will be interacting with this girl, Nish. And that'll be one of the short films that we do, just called Fungusaurus Short Films. So I was thinking of this one would be called Paradox, a Fungusaurus short film. A Fungusaurus short story, something like that. Alright, so today basically in ZBrush I'm going to continue exploring the character design of this girl. I started it last week and just going to keep delving further. So if you have any questions in the meanwhile, I'm on the Restream chat, just shout it out and then I'll be happy to answer. I'm going to take a look right now. RB Gaming saying, question, how to check if a model has enough thickness for print? Any particular software for that? It really depends. It depends on your printer. It'll tell you that your print is too thin or thick. One thing that I use pretty often that doesn't care what printer you use is Shapeways. You can upload a model to Shapeways. Don't use their service to print, but use their model thickness checker feature. And depending on different materials, it'll tell you this model is too thin to print. This model needs X amount more thickness. So Shapeways is a solid thing to use for that. Alright, he's working on miniatures, so they're 25 to 28 millimeters in height. Yeah, miniatures, all last year I was working at Sky Castle Studios on HeroForge.com. And let me show you guys what you need to do for miniatures. So HeroForge is a site where you can, it's a customizer for Dungeons and Dragons and other fantasy games. You can basically build, you can pick what race you want your character to be. You can pick the clothing and gear for that they're going to be wearing. So you can pick all sorts of different headwear. Switch to shoulders. Let's do back. Let's give them a cape. You can pick different bases. You can put different base items too. Let's do a tiki. I like tikis. You can change poses. You can even put them on a horse. There's all sorts of different swords and staffs and stuff that these characters can be holding. I like the cape. I'm going to put that cape back. Let's go with handheld and bring out the swords. Alright, so if we take a look, this is this character that's being built for miniature scale. So this is going to be printed at 28 millimeter height. And look how thick everything is. That's a cape. But look how thick that cape is. Even the swords, the blade edges aren't edges. Because once you shrink it down to really, really miniature scale, a lot of that detail disappears. So use this site as a reference if you're making miniatures, because it really tells you how you have to exaggerate the scale and thicken things up way more than you think. Alright, cool, cool. Mark Williams saying my kids would love these, referring to my Fungusaurs. Well, I'm done with the plugs, but I will say I do have a store, so you can go online and collect them and support independent artists. Hopefully you'll see these in stores one day once I'm finished with the game. We're just trying to get seed funding to finish our game now. So that's where we're at with all that. Okay, so enough of the plugs. Let's jump into ZBrush and get started sculpting for today. Alright, I'm going to turn on some music as well, using this thing called Pretzel. Let's see, chill, ambient. Let's do ambient. Alright, so I'm going to keep this really low so I can still talk and you guys can still hear me. But if any of you feel the music is too loud, just let me know in the chat and I'll turn it down. Alright, jumping into ZBrush. Let's spin around this character. Let's make sure it's showing well on your screen. Okay, cool. Alright, so basically what I want to do today is explore different character design elements for this character, tell you how I'm thinking about it and the reference I have pulled up, and I'll just show you my process as I work through it. So, like I said, I want this girl, Nish, to be of South Asian, somewhere in South Asia. I don't really know where. Like, I'm not trying to be too specific or culturally accurate. It's more about having a general, vague character that multiple people can relate to. So I don't really want to specify whether she's Muslim or not. I don't want to specify what her cultural background is. I kind of want it to be relatable. I am taking some stylistic choices, like I'm giving her heterochromia. That's where one eye is, well, both eyes are different colors. I feel it's a great way to bring attention to the character's face. I took a while building this face in last week's stream. All right. Next track. This one's a bit loud. Alright, so what I want to do is explore different colors, different outfits, figure out this character, how I want her to be for this short film that I want to create. So I'll show you guys a few different options that I was considering. I've got the headband option, which makes her just look, you know, athletic, like she's out for a workout, or you know, just training, even at a young age. So it's a very different look than this one over here with the scarf. And I was thinking what could happen is that she starts off with the scarf, ditches it in order to go for, you know, exercise or run or whatever she wants to. So if that's the case and we're doing a little character transition, then I want to explore, you know, different, you know, development. Meaning even do her shoes, do they stay the same start to finish, or does she change those? What other parts of her outfit or outward appearance can she change to reveal her character desires and personality? Also different colors. So I've been exploring just more pink. What if she keeps the scarf and, you know, instead of having it wrapped around her head, she just has it around her neck? I'm going to come over to this right now. Use the inflate brush. Inflate that out a bit. Switch to my dam standard. Just add in some details. Now you can see I'm keeping this super low poly as I sculpt this. And that's how I tend to work. I keep things super low poly until I don't need to. Or until I need to up the resolution. So even though I'm sculpting her in T-pose, because I want to, you know, have this be an animated character, while I'm doing the design exploration, I have no problem with the scarf being all over the place. Alright, gonna go up in resolution once, go back to my dam standard tool, and I'm gonna hold Alt as I sculpt, and that's gonna help me create a ledge. Usually dam standard is going to cut, but if you hold Alt, it'll kind of create a ledge outward. Also want to simulate gravity a bit. And sometimes you have to go solo mode in order to see what's happening, what you want to do. Now I tend to overdo details and then sculpt them down. So I'll over sculpt and then I'll smooth things out later. I've just found it works really well for me. Come in here with the pinch brush, do some pinching. I'll figure out what exactly is happening here. There we go. Close that up. Bring that down. You always have to bounce around your model from a lot of different angles in order to see what's actually happening. That's kind of the fun of the 3D part of it for me. So I'm not actively looking at any reference for cloth right now, which I should be. Just kind of trying to sculpt it from memory. That's not ideal. You always want to have some reference up when you're sculpting. Because right now that feels like it's okay, but it doesn't feel real. No, either way, it gets the point across. So I can kind of explore these different character designs. Turn on perspective. Nope, leave that off. And what I'm going to do is kind of just have them up on my screen a bit. Now if I have a character that doesn't have a scarf, then she's much more general. Could be living anywhere, could be like I haven't figured out the setting of where I want this animation, so that's crucial. I need to figure it out from large to small. But right now I'm just doing some explorations. Alright, so if she doesn't have a scarf, then she needs some accessory because I feel she's too simplified right now. So let's append a sphere. And let's just make it into a quick backpack. Move it down into place. It's like a giant turtle shell right now. We've seen plenty of turtle shell backpacks, but that's not what I'm doing. Really, when you're doing design explorations, it's all about changing a character's silhouette. So that's what you're trying to figure out. Does it add anything? I'm going to hide the hair for a second as I come in here and switch to my curve strap snap. And I'm going to try to create some straps. Alright, we wouldn't do it on there because there's multiple subdivisions. It's really big. You can change the draw size of your strap and then tap on it and it'll update the size. You can also, I think in theory, continue this and it goes all the way. So yeah, that's a good start to straps. And I can sculpt them at will once I have the basic strap drawn out. Yeah, ZBrush has got a lot of excellent tools to help us in our sculpting and explorations. Now you can see when I sculpt just out of habit. I think about 3D printing, so I don't want there to be any gap in between the strap and the body. I'm going to control tap and get the backpack selected. Let's see. You can explore different looks for that backpack too. Subdivide. Let's turn her hair back on. That one. You can fill object with color. And as much as we hate it, the gender norms and such, pink does make a character seem more feminine, which may not be a bad thing. I'm going to try a variation of this with very small straps as well. So I'm going to duplicate that backpack. Select only the straps. Just going to mask them. So I'm only sculpting those straps. And just do thinner, or not thinner, just smaller backpack straps. Sheesh. Hope everyone's enjoying sculpting something today as they watch. What are y'all working on? What are your projects? Also try having much thinner straps since we're trying things anyway. Effects animator saying on the elliptical at the moment and making an environment for my jigsaw puzzle game when I get home. That's awesome. I've never thought to watch streams while on an elliptical. My loss. I went for a run yesterday actually. After a while, I hadn't gone running in almost a year. And just decided out of the blue yesterday it was going to be a day I go running. And my neighborhood is very hilly, so I was exhausted very quickly. But I did make it to the top of this certain hill that I wanted to climb. Yep, it's all about time efficiency. I got another question. Do you know how to make an astronaut helmet? Yeah, I do. But it's hard to segue into that from a short film character here. Hard surface stuff is just like anything else. It's just a matter of gathering good reference. I like the idea of this girl having this pink backpack trying to assert her personality. Because I kind of want her to be very tomboyish, very outdoorsy, very active. Or at least that's my vision right now. But that doesn't mean that she can't wear pink. That could be something that tells us about that character. Yeah, see, that's a good point. DDSYKJ, I don't even know how to say her name, man, is on Twitch is saying it's kind of like Dora. You're right. As soon as you have a backpack on a brown girl, now she's Dora-esque because you can reference existing things, even unintentionally. Now, does Dora have a pink backpack? Now, if Dora has a pink backpack, then I have to actually change the color of the backpack. So now let's take a look. I'm going to save this on the desktop. Alright, so I'll show you guys some of the reference I had pulled up earlier. This is a reference for heterochromia, the condition when you have eyes that are of multiple colors. And I always found this really fascinating and wanted to incorporate it into a character because it really makes you focus on their face. The other thing I was looking up was various Indian and South Asian scars. We call them dupattas. So they kind of just drape over the one side. So this is kind of the fashion way of showing it off, where you have it extended on your hand, but it's a pretty common dress outfit, and it's mostly worn kind of like this, just hanging, draped over you. I'll try an iteration of this as well. Looking up different Pakistani girls, different Indian girls, just to see what the outfits are. Of course, you'll see Malala on here, Malala Yousafzai, probably the most famous Pakistani girl at the moment, and for good reason. Yeah, one thing you'll notice in South Asia, it's very different from the Middle East, is that girls don't tend to fully cover up. That's not a South Asian thing. We tend to get looped into Middle East pretty quickly, but it's a pretty different subculture. Also looking up slippers and sandals because of the idea, what if she isn't wearing shoes to start off? Here's another dupatta, kind of thrown around, kind of like a scarf. And since we're talking about being referential, one thing I thought of as soon as I made her scarf red was the Afghan girl photo from National Geographic from, I don't know, 1985. Very famous photo of this girl just with piercing, striking eyes looking straight at the camera. Here she is all grown up. But this is kind of another thing that, unintentionally you can be referential to other things. Let's look up Dora as well. I know they're making a new Dora, what do you call it, movie. Alright, so her backpack is purple. Totally different. Alright, so she's got shorts, she's got her shirt, she's got this funny haircut, a very, silhouette defining haircut, kind of makes her head seem very oval shaped. Some frilly socks. And here's the Dora for the movie. Well, it's a pretty solid interpretation for live action. Alright, so I'm gonna keep these references open off to the side for me. Let's see. Got another question. Let's see. Erlich TV saying, do you have any 3D nude models? Not particularly. It really depends on, I have a ton of different reference, but with this character, I didn't sculpt a body. It's just the neck and the hands. it's built into the outfit, because it's for animation. You don't need a nude character underneath all the time. Like, you can block in proportions just like this. I feel like I did see some really great model on ArtStation Marketplace. I don't know if you guys have seen this ArtStation Marketplace, but there's all sorts of models and stuff here to download. Here's the one I was thinking, by Ali Farsangi, this stylized female base mesh. And so there's a nude version of this character and clothed, but it's $5. That's an awesome deal. You get this animation ready base mesh. Here we go. You can see the topology, and you get the hair and the eyes too. So it's a solid deal if you're interested in something like that. But I recommend you build your own so you can understand how, you know, your understanding of anatomy can improve. I've done hundreds of these, so I have a bunch of base meshes. All right. All right, got a question. Should I buy a book of ZBrush guides for beginners? Depends, yeah. Are you interested in reading? There's a lot of different resources. I like to point people to my friend's company, Mold 3D Academy, because they have mentorships and classes with Mike DeFeo, who's one of the most excellent stylized character teachers around. You've also got classes with Dylan Ekron that you can get self-paced. Dylan Ekron is a modeler for Disney. And my own classes on here as well, 3D printing for ZBrush artists with me. And you can get 8 weeks of lessons on all sorts of 3D printing. So I cover 3D printing miniatures, large scale, slicing, keying, articulation, jewelry, fashion, wearables, all in this one class. I have to update it. Some of the techniques are a bit outdated because this was made for ZBrush, I don't know, 7. But no, it's on there for a pretty good deal right now if you're interested. I'll drop that in the chat. Alright, so I'm going to keep this reference up onto the side as I sculpt, and then, yeah, if you guys have any questions, just feel free to drop them in the chat, and I will respond as quickly as I can. Alright, so one thing I noticed from looking at the Dora sculpt is that the straps really only go till about there, and then they kind of change into different types of straps. And that's pretty common. I've seen that and had that in different backpacks, so I'm going to mask off that selection. Split unmask points. We can do Dynamesh it. 128 resolution is not enough. Crank that a bit. Alright. Smooth these out. Maybe inflate them a bit as well. Dynamesh as well. These smaller ones should be a lot smaller. So this is kind of like visual development more than it is modeling, because I'm just trying to figure out what this character should look and feel like. And so I'm not really caring about the final look of it just yet. Just exploring. It's okay to allow yourself to be rough when exploring. Helps you achieve what you're going for faster. Okay, so here's a version with the backpack, and I can imagine that she does all sorts of stuff here with this backpack, like in terms of storing stuff in it that could be relevant for the animation, or I mean relevant for the short. Also kind of want it to be smaller at the top and bigger at the bottom. This helps define some gravity and gets it out of the way of her hair. That helps. Alright, so here's a couple of iterations of the character. Let's go back to working on the scarf one too, and see if we can make a few better decisions, and then start thinking more about color. Alright, I don't want this backpack anymore. Too big. Let's see. Let's turn that off. Turn off that hair, turn on this one, turn off that, turn that on. Alright, let's see with this, with the backpack. So that's interesting. Let's see if we can incorporate both of these things together. So she's wearing a scarf and a backpack. So obviously going to need to move some of these pieces so they're out of the way of the backpack straps, more obviously. You can see even with this that I'm just sculpting relatively quickly. These creases should be coming in here. And the worst thing you can do is have these creases be the exact same distance away from each other. That really makes it feel forced, not real. There's a part of me that also really wants to try Marvelous Designer for this and see what it comes up with. But first it's important that I figure out what I'm doing with Marvelous Designer. Just the look of it. Alright, so the scarf on this side is just totally interpenetrating with the backpack, so I don't need that. So let's select that part of it. I'm using the mask lasso tool to do this, selecting only the part I want to work on. Inverting that mask selection. You can just kind of grab it and move it. Now, in addition to looking like the Afghan girl, she's also looking a bit like Red Riding Hood. always these references that have been subconsciously built into you since you were a kid. You have to kind of swim past them if you want to create something original. There's nothing wrong with incorporating those cultural, iconic things into your art. Smooth that out. So far, pretty much only been using just the damn standard brush, the move brush, clay sometimes. Alright, so I want to explore this idea further. So if she does have a scarf and she starts out like this, does she, you know, turn it into kind of just the neck scarf and just move on? Or does something else happen? I'm going to put this over here. See it the other way too. And then let's start again. So I'm going to lose that. Keep the backpack. Go back to... that's another variation I thought of, having it just kind of wrapped around her pants. I don't know, that's... I'm not feeling that. Let's turn on the headband again. I'm going to duplicate this scarf and think about it not as a scarf, but more as a dupatta. Kind of explained how that works already. Let's see. You know what? I'm not even going to use it. I'll build a new one. Let's start with just a curved tube snap. Darn. Can't do it on a mesh with multiple subdivisions. And turn off symmetry. Alright, got a question from YouTube. Is it possible to make articulated figures only by 3D printing? Or are there extra things like pins? Yeah, you can do both. There is a few different 3D printing figures that are available. I'll show you shortly. I'm going to split this on its own layer. I'm going to divide it a few times. Smooth it out. Kind of hard to see the shape of it with just the same color, so I'll pick a different color. And let's see, let's flatten this out. Add it here. Most of my models start out this lumpy, and then we refine them until they work. This is a different idea, exploring how it would work as a dupatta, which I guess means that this part should go behind the character, so it hangs better, has something to drape onto. We're gonna just figure out the basic shape. Dynamesh it when we want. Inflate the heck out of it. because I want this to be pretty big before we go to H polish, and let's flatten it out. This music seems to have a lot of dialogue, so I'm going to move on to the next one. I'm going to raise that up a bit. Make sure none of this is interpenetrating with anything else. Go back to H polish. Alright, let me get to answering that question someone had about articulation in 3D printing. Alright, I'm going to come back to this shortly. We'll keep exploring. Let's save this scene. Alright, so articulation in 3D printing. I mean, really I could do a whole class on this stuff, but what I want to go to is, let's try a few different ones. Try pinshape.com. And this is a site where you can get all sorts of 3D models. Let's see. I'm going to type articulated. See what comes up. So a lot of different types of articulated characters here. We've got an articulated face hugger. And just from this very brief go around, I can see that there's different types of articulated characters, those with pins and those that just kind of snap into each other. Hold on, I think I have something better than this. I'm going to go to my class folder. See, go to the articulation section. I wonder if this is right. Alright, so this is one of the lessons in my class where I talk about articulation. You can see articulation in the world. Different styles of toys. How articulation has evolved. These are the He-Man toys in the 80s and these are the He-Man toys now. Much more range of motion in these than back in the old days. G.I. Joes, the most famous articulated toys, because they basically coined the term action figure. Before that, there were no toys for boys really. It was mostly dolls, like Barbie, for example. And Barbie has articulation, but she's actually her articulation is minimized in favor of beauty. So for example, this one can't bend her knees. She can only really move her shoulders, so her range of motion is really limited, whereas this one can at least still bend her hand, but there's no finger motion. There's some other toys like this that have 80+ points of articulation. So there's a ton of articulation in some other toys, but these ones sacrifice beauty, so they don't care how they look as long as they can move even more. There's clothed articulated characters. These are all done with pins, as you can see in each of those holes, multiple pins. And then there's art toys that have no articulation at all. So if you want to look up some for things that are free online, Pinshape has a bunch, Thingiverse has a bunch as well. You can download this one, open source action figure. A lot of points of articulation. This one uses pins, standard pins. And there's also Modi bots, for example, that don't use pins. These are all kind of, you print this and they snap into each other. And now they're articulated characters that don't require any pins. You can print everything you need. Yeah, if you want to learn about articulation, I recommend this book, Pop Sculpture, by Tim Bruckner, Zach Dat, and Ruben Procopio. A lot of excellent stuff in here about how to articulate ball joints, pivot joints, T-joints, hinge joints. And then this is an exercise that I go over in my class, how to build this character so that it can all kind of snap together without having need of any pins. This is kind of what we built. Alright, so I hope that answered your question. If you're interested in more details, you can look up my class, and there's a whole bunch of lessons in there about articulation. Alright. Jehudi 2012 is asking how much for ZBrush Core. I'm not really sure. We can look it up really quickly. ZBrush Core cost. Looks like it's $149.95, so basically 150 bucks for ZBrush Core, which is not bad. Unleash the power of ZBrush Core. Yeah, so basically 100, almost 200 bucks. But I highly recommend the full version of ZBrush. It's not that much, and it's going to work much better. There's a lot more features in there. Alright, Van's asking, are both just as good? Is pins more professional? Really, it's not about professional. It's about balancing your range of motion, meaning how much motion do you want this character to achieve with how clean you want it to look. And that's really what makes it professional. It doesn't matter if it's pins or not. Alright, back to this dupatta here that I was working on. I'm going to use clip curve to kind of clip the bottoms of this. Sometimes that generates like a weirdness. Just have to clip a bunch more. Smooth that out, smooth that out. I'm going to mask half of this so I can clip only the way I want. And I'm tapping Alt as I do this clip, and I'm holding Alt to reverse that clip as well. So all sorts of fun stuff you can do. I'm just fixing the sculpt manually. And once you get the kind of the base shape figured out the way you want it, you can come back in and keep sculpting. Okay, there we go. There we go. Alright, so got a pretty decent base shape going. Now I can sculpt it a little bit to make it feel like cloth. And Dynamesh again. Resolution's pretty low, 40, but it's saying there's 22K polys. Oh, it's because project is on. Yeah, so I want to turn project off and raise that Dynamesh amount. There we go. Should give me a bunch of resolution to sculpt in. What I've learned about sculpting creases is that it's basically going to crease anywhere that there's pressure applied to it, so over an existing object. It won't just crease out of the blue. So you have to study a bit of natural creasing and see why things crease. Kind of hard to sculpt with all these different characters crowding up my scene space, but I do also want to be able to see them. So I'm not going to toss them or anything like that just yet. Just using dam standard here, trying to make sure that these creases that I make are all pretty different from each other. Worst thing you can do is have symmetrical creases. Like these creases are basically just mirroring each other, which I don't like. I'm gonna undo a bit. Make sure they're different from each other. And this one can be simplified and going all the way. The other thing is, and I learned this from Dylan Eckren, it's about thick and thin. So if it starts thick, then it should go thin. And that simple change adds a lot of character. Whoop. So you can see it's thick over here, but it's thin over here. Simple thing to do, but helps a lot. Should scrunch up a bit here at the corners. Got to scrunch. Alright, so same character, just a very different exploration of it. Different clothing. Clothing can change a lot. Alright, so I don't know if she should ever be wearing the backpack when she's wearing this outfit, because they just don't seem to be elements that go well together. So I'm going to turn off the backpack. And you know what? I think what I've decided from this stream is that I need to have her have a costume change through the course of the short film. At least shed something and add something else. And that's easy to do with the scarf and a backpack. I'm going to try to spread these out a bit. Change the way they're flowing. And pinch and scrunch a bit more at the shoulders. So you can really feel that draping. Alright, I think it's time that we do some color explorations as well. Think about how this character is going to look. And I feel like I need to make some sandals first though. Just fully complete that the set of different looks. I'm going to open up this snipping tool. Grab a screenshot. I don't like that there. New screenshot. Okay, much better. Call this variations. I think I spelled variations wrong. There we go. Niche variations 1. Alright, so got some more questions here. Do I use just ZBrush for it? I guess meaning articulation in my class. It's a lot of ZBrush. I think I use some other free software, Mesh Mixer. So yeah. Alright, just meet saying you didn't answer my question. Moving to Canada this year. Wanted to know if I'll be able to survive as an artist, work in India as an artist in 3D printing. Okay, so let me go back to your previous question because I don't think I missed it. Here we go. How much can a 3D artist earn in countries like Canada? Really depends, man. Okay, so when people ask me about career stuff and how to think about moving and deciding what to do, where to be, it's always hard work. It's never straightforward. You're not going to, like, I moved to LA hoping to get a job at Disney or DreamWorks. 4.5 years here, it still hasn't happened because it doesn't just automatically happen. You have to put in the hard work and effort. And I've heard Disney doesn't pay that well. So it really depends what your pay is going to be. Also, there's no such thing as Canada. Canada is massive. You can't just land in Montreal, Vancouver, or just middle of the Ozarks or like the freaking tundra and expect to make the same amount of money. Like I went to Yellowknife, Canada, the very, very top of Canada, and there's a lot of immigrants there, but it's a very different, there's no CG jobs at all. There's some IT stuff. There's a lot of work in Canada in Vancouver and Montreal, and there you can definitely survive as a 3D artist there. The question of how much to make, I'm not really sure. I don't know how it breaks down for Canadian currency. But I know several 3D artists that live in Canada and make a living. So yes, it is possible to survive there working as an artist. Now, as an artist in 3D printing, that's a bit too specific. You can find work in 3D printing where there's an industry for it, but you won't find it everywhere. So it's really like you can do toys and animation and games and have much more luck finding work than just straight 3D printing. I'm just messing around with this dupatta here in the back. I don't really want it to be symmetrical, so just trying some different looks. And Doug's trying to get in the room right now. I think he wants to. He wants me to take him out, probably. But he's gonna have to wait 1 more hour. No, 50 more minutes for the stream. Alright, so I'm gonna try another variation here. Just take these shoes off and let's give her some feet so we can think about that. Let's see what's going on here. So the feet are just on their own. So I can go to geometry, delete lower. Let's dynamesh this stuff. Thought I did already. Turn project off. There we go. Great. Okay, so with that smoothed in, let's see if I have any feet lying around. So you've got this hand gestures brush. That's pretty different from feet. some creature here, some random creature. Oh, got a toon character here. Let's see. Got a really wonky barefoot. Alright, I guess I'll just start with this weird creature's foot. Yeah, totally wrong, but at least it's got a basic shape that we can use. And scale that up a little bit. Looks about right. Whoop. And make sure that this is connected to the legs above. Whoa. There we go. And let's Dynamesh this. Smooth the heck out of it. And the Dynamesh resolution is way too high, so gonna bring it down a bit. Make sure she still has some calves, shin bone. Alright, so this one only has 3 fingers, so we need to add a finger. Let's move this one over. Move that one over. And make sure I do this with a higher resolution. There we go. And we got room for another finger here in the center. I'm gonna take that, split on mass points. Whoa, what did I split? Yep, that. Okay. Duplicate that, move it over to about there. Turn solo off. Alright, cool. Let's merge down, and Dynamesh. Alright, got all my fingers. Make sure I have enough space for them all. Whoop. Alright, cool. Got that. Alright, don't like the orange feet, so I'm going to do something about that. Go ahead to pick that color and material and fill object. Okay, great. Get rid of that giant big toe, that's just weird looking. Okay, make sure this character's feet are well planted on the ground. And just start thinking some anatomy as well. So not yet adding nails, but I will. So let's go ahead and flatten the tops a bit. Yeah, it's tough when people ask about careers in 3D printing because it really depends. Like I've got a few friends in Canada. One's working as a 3D print artist at Happy Worker. It's a company that specializes in making 3D printed collectibles for people. And so yeah, she's doing it. I have another friend who's working in Canada who's doing 3D printing, and I think they're in Canada. But their main thing is, how should I explain? Making urns. So do you know what urns are? Urns are what people are buried in. Not buried, cremation. The cremated remains are put in urns. And she makes custom 3D printed urns. Like that's her thing. And apparently there's a strong business for it. really with the whole point that I like to emphasize with 3D printing is you can build your dream job. You don't need to work for a traditional company. Okay. Get some random veins going. Smooth those out. Don't want too much of that. Alright, this middle finger should be pretty long. Let's make it a bit thicker too. Now this is a stylized character, so I don't want to overdo it with the detail, but it feels like it needs a little more than what's going on here right now. Specifically, at least it needs some nails. I'm going to go ahead and add those. Really simply, just kind of sculpting them on. And then later, we'll select them and move them. Okay. Good start. Get some definition in those joints as well. Not that you need much. This one needs a bit much. Alright. So what I meant by move them was simply select the nails, and you can do this with a mask selection if you use your mask pen. Just mask select them. Alright, not trying to be too precise. I'm going to invert that selection. Uh-oh, crash ZBrush. Damn! I hate it when that happens. Let's see if it saved it for us. Saving project file in progress. Let's hope it did. Alright, so we crashed ZBrush. Let's hope we still have some feet when we can bring it back. Alright. Alright, so that was the character the way we started it today. And then we did a bunch of variations. So we could see different looks, different accessories. And now, let's open ZBrush and hope we still have something. Alright, got more questions. Jimmy Animal on YouTube is saying, may I ask what project does next to Dynamesh? You mentioned it a few minutes ago. Okay, for sure. I'll show you. Let's see. Alright, so it looks like it's recovered it. Click on Recovered Z tool there. Yay! Alright, so we still have our character. I'm going to kill the range here. Double the document size. Click on AA half, and that's going to just anti-alias the corners so you don't see a lot of weird stuff. Alright, let me finish what I was doing and then I'll answer the question. I was inverting those selections that I had made. I'm going to turn off that for now. And what I'm going to do is basically just draw my transpose tool and just pull them forward a bit. This adds that ledge that we like, that resembles nails. Sculpt those up a bit. Okay. Now we can Dynamesh again. You lose a bit of resolution when you Dynamesh here. So let's show you what project does. So if I have my polyframe turned on, and looks funky. If I have my polyframe turned on, you can see what the geometry looks like right now. If we leave project on, geometry, Dynamesh, project, you can also hold control over it, and you can see what any part of ZBrush will do, just holding control. It says that current details of the model will be projected onto Dynamesh automatically. So what I'm going to do is set the resolution really low, have project turned on, and then Dynamesh. So what you can see here is it tried to preserve the details of the mesh by quadrangulating and trying to, fill those in. If I didn't have project turned on at that resolution, oh, it did not. It'll kind of flatten that detail. You see how it loses detail? So project can be useful for having your detail preserved. What I've found most of the time, though, is that I like having quad detail, so I just raise the resolution and do it with project off. And that's my preferred method, because nothing gets quadrangulated. You don't get any detail added where you don't want, and you can still kind of work on it as a sculpture. So I hope that helped. Alright, gonna carve those nails back in a little bit. I'm gonna make sure they're all about the same size too. Although a little bit of asymmetry is nice. Okay. It's kind of adding a little bit of vein detail in there, smoothing it out. Want to make sure she has ankles. So let's give her those. Ankles are very different from one end of the foot to another. On the inside they're higher, on the outside they're lower. I'm going to define those. And like I said, stylized characters, so not going for accurate anatomy, but I want there to be anatomy. I'm not going to try to define the calves or the shin bone really. The shin bone kind of does this curve thing, which I don't think it needs it. I don't think we need a lot of definition in the muscles in the back either. Don't need the separation there. Might add like one line here and smooth that out to indicate the separation. Subtle. I don't know. I don't think it adds anything. If something doesn't add something, you just don't do it. Yeah, that's fine. Those veins now are getting a bit too veiny. So I'm going to go in and smooth those a bit more. And just good to have hints of them, you know? I want to make sure my toes aren't all misshapen. So you have to look at it from all angles. You can't just be happy with the one. But I'm liking how these are coming along. They're looking like toes. And that's what we want. Okay. Okay. Could you share some general tips for keeping the mesh stylized and smooth, where one Dynamesh a lot polish, mesh gets some kind of banding? The real question is how to achieve smooth surfaces with nice defined edges. It really depends, man. Like, I think the best way, if you want to do like Disney Infinity style, is to just add a lot of sharp creases, and that helps you really have clear, defined, stylized edges. And I could do that really all over this model, and it would be a very different stylized look than the one I'm going for right now. The one that I'm doing is a bit more like happy medium. But let's look at the face, for example. If I wanted to, I could really push those sharp creases, you know? And then you have a very different type of character and different type of look. Sometimes you want heavy creases. I think the goal is to just add resolution when you need it and not before. That way you focus on the big forms as long as you can. And bounce around a bunch. Don't get stuck working in one area of the model. I'm guessing not the exact answer you were looking for, but it really is hard to explain these principles of stylized design. It's not really about the surface so much as it is the shapes and volumes and form. Surface quality is like the final feature, not something you need to worry about in the beginning. Let's see, should I give these characters a bit more cav or not? She looks a bit too defined when I give her too much calf. Gonna make sure that she has a good knee joint though. For creasing, I just use damp standard, just inverted. It's my favorite tool for it. Darn. Alright, another thing you can do is, like I want to close these holes in this mesh. So what I'm going to do is duplicate. Let's see. A few different poly groups here. So I'll close the pants here. So I'll split them off. Delete lower. Split hidden. And you can always reconstruct subdivisions if you need to, in theory. And keep that one there for now. Duplicate it again. Delete lower. Let's Dynamesh this. Project off. What just happened? Thought I deleted. I didn't delete hidden. Now it'll work. Alright, there's the Dynamesh. Let's close the holes. What? Oh, I undid. Sometimes you just need to figure out what's going on in your scene. Alright, this is the model without the holes closed. So I'm going to go down in subdivisions. Duplicate it so I have a backup. I'll delete hidden. I'll go to geometry, modify topology, and close holes. I think it's here. Yeah, close holes. So I'm going to delete my higher subdivisions, close holes. Those are fully closed now. Then I'll be able to divide, and then I'll be able to project from the other mesh. Turn solo off. What is this? I see. Sleeps. And we'll project this detail from one onto the other. And hope it works. Project. And before I do that, I'll save, because project has a habit of crashing sometimes. Alright, and click project, see what it does. It's taking a while to think about it because there's a lot of subtools on right now. Alright, looks like it, nope, still doing. Looks like it's done. Let's turn off the other mesh. See what we're left with. Yeah, looks like it got most of the wrinkle detail. A lot of junk at the bottom, which we can just smooth out. And the top, which we don't need. I'm going to go up and down in subdivisions and just clean it up. And go to my clip curve and clip the bottom of those pants so they're clean as well. Probably going to do this from the side. Alright, clean. And the top is relatively clean. Alright, great. May want to actually add some hint of knees. It's kind of a little knob, something that this material would be pulling from. Okay. So some indicator there for where the knees are. Always good for animators. Although her shorts now, pants just, they feel too short. So I'm going to select the bottoms. So do I have my clip curve, mask lasso on. Whoop. Invert that. Just pull it down a bit. And feet look a bit long now too. I'm gonna make sure I keep those proportions that I liked earlier. Let's clip curve again. Smooth it out. And clip from the side again. All right. It's trying different looks. Seeing what makes more sense. Makes sense that it would pull from the shin and the calf and kind of hang along the sides. I'm gonna save the scene again. Let's give her some slippers. Perusing through different slippers here, seeing what style I like. This style is pretty common. I've seen this a lot. Casual sandals aren't bad either. The problem with looking up slippers is it's often just so fashion based. And I don't want these to be overly fashionable. I just want them to be kind of day-to-day use kind. So I might just make some really simple ones. Let's see. Let's find a insert brush. say insert cylinder, the bottom of these feet. And make sure I'm getting like a nice flat cylinder. I'm going to flatten out a bit of the bottom. Nah, it's not coming out perfectly flat, but that's fine. Go on to move. And then go to rotate. Flatten it out. We can look from the bottom and whoa, move tool, extend those out. And it doesn't feel too flat, we can always just clip curve and flatten it. Flatten the bottom and move it down, move it up. Now her legs feel a bit too manly right now. I'll show you what I mean. No. Darn. Click fill layer instead of fill object. Do that pretty often. Alright, so what I mean by her legs looking manly is sometimes in order to make legs look feminine you should elongate them. And then just not have them be so wide. Shrink this foot down a bit, this toe I guess. Bring that back out. Alright. Continuing with these sandals. We go to geometry, divide. Make sure that they're extending long enough. Got the shape of the foot in there. The heel could be a bit wider. Whoop. Okay. I'm just going to tap smooth a little bit just to make it not so sharp and creased. And let's add something for the top. And go back to my insert meshes. Let's go with just a, I don't know, sphere or cylinder. Cylinder might work well again. Rotate that into place. Move it forward and out. I'm going to turn off everything but what I need to see. Whoa. Make sure I'm in my move brush. And sculpt the shape that I'm looking for. And flatten out the bottom. Don't need that. Basic sandals, but it'll help us visualize what we're going for. I'm going to clip the front. It's cleaner. Divide it a few times. Delete lower. You can even dynamesh these pieces together. Come in here. With our mask lasso selected. Clear. Okay. And just pull that edge in a bit. And tap on it. And move it in. Subtle, but it'll help. Go to my damp standard tool. Make sure I lift up the edge. Even if it's thin. It's good to have a ledge in there. That's what I like about working in ZBrush. It's very digital clay. I'm going to pinch the back end. And there's our sandals. Obviously, you can keep working these until they look and feel right. You may also want to add a little strap there. Let's do a little curved tube. Too wide. Yeah, just like that. Perfect. Just to add a little dimension. a bit more functionality. Alright, let's turn on the rest of our character. All sorts of pieces here. We can find what we like and what fits. Let's have some fun with these sandals and play with some color. Trying to keep the color palette limited to now for just a few different colors, but we might play with it. That's my dog in the background. You can hear him. He does that time to time. Usually when someone's delivering a package. Django 950 says, "Hey everyone." What's up, Django? Thanks for joining my Z stream. Alright. Jimmy Animal asking, do you have some tips from straight edges? You change proportions a lot, but you have some creases established already. How do you fix those wobbly edges? Lazy mouse and pinch do the trick, but sometimes it's super overkill. That's a good question. What I like about working in ZBrush is that I can always adjust the proportions and rethink certain things, you know? For sharp creases, I use the clip curve a lot. So if I ever want to do something really sharp, clip it. Easy solution. But you have to know which way you're clipping. That's important. What else? Straight edges. I don't really know how do I get straight edges. I don't know if I have any straight edges in this model. It's pretty all over the place right now. Yeah, clip is a great tool for that. You can double click on Alt and then you can get some really cool straight lines and curves and bends all over the place and using the clip curve brush. And sometimes inflating too much leads to weird artifacts. I'm going to switch to my select lasso. I'm going to try to delete that stuff that's at the bottom. Simply hide it. And then delete hidden. And then when you Dynamesh, should hopefully be fine. Yep. Yeah, I'm using a lot of damn standard with the lazy mouse on, and then later I go in and smooth and pinch. that's my standard workflow for this stuff. You have to be careful with the damn standard though. It's important you're aware of the size of your brush. Otherwise there'll be all sorts of artifacts. Alright, let's play with some colors for the last few minutes of this. And yeah. See, where is the other headscarf? The one that's actually closed. Got a backpack too. And this thing. Try some blues as well in there. No need to stick to the warm color palette. Too blue. Alright, so I'm going to have two different variations of this character. And that's basically going to define how she looks at the start and the end of the short film. Wait, was Dora wearing pink? Yeah, that's her color, so I can't really go with the pink. So I can go with a slightly different shade. Seems like most of the sandals I see can be pretty much any color. Let's try with white. Nope, nope. The sandals. White or silver. It's an interesting choice, but it brings too much attention to the feet. I like the scarf being brighter. Alright, so there's one look for the character. I think for now I'll just color the sandals same color as the scarf. And then let's do another variation where she doesn't have the sandals anymore, doesn't have the scarf, she does have a backpack. Let's change the hair as well. So this is kind of the outdoorsy version of her. And just so we keep some color intact, try to give her a blue backpack. I don't know. There's definitely more character exploration that needs to happen here. Does she shed her sandals in favor of shoes? Yeah, look, she got quite a bit taller, I guess, in that last iteration. The shoes are way too low. So, a lot more exploring to do. Figure out really, maybe this weekend I'll try to nail down where this character is. So if I can figure out the setting and the time and place and period, then from there I can extrapolate everything else about the character design. That's one challenge when trying to do character concepts without having properly thought out the character. You kind of can get lost pretty easily and just keep making variations forever. I kind of think that it would be cool if she didn't have shoes at all at a certain point. It becomes a lot more raw. At that point, does she need the backpack still? That can be an impediment to climbing, which is what she'll be doing in her later in the film. Well, in any case, made some good progress today, made some feet. Not too bad for a couple of hours. Mess with the proportions a bunch, and we'll keep continuing to do so until we've nailed it down. Eventually you'll see me 3D printing this character out. We'll test it alongside for scale, and then I'll have it painted. That way I'll have the full character ready, and then try to make a short film, I don't know, starting September-ish. Just planning it out right now, so thanks for joining me in the ZBrush stream today. Hope you guys enjoyed that. And I will see you next week at this time, next week Thursday. And we'll continue. Let's see. Steven77 is asking a question. Any tips on knowing details or wrinkles are deep enough to show in 3D printed resin, or is failing the only way? Yeah, I mean, failing is the best way to learn. It really depends on your scale that you're printing in. My creases and folds are generally really large because I think about 3D printing when I sculpt, and so I tend to overdo the information and then later come back down to it. So yeah, I'd say print prototyping is the best way to figure it out. Alright, that's it for today's stream. Thanks everyone for joining. My name is Aiman Akhtar again. If you want to follow me in my work, you can go to Instagram, Fungusaurs. That's kind of the main channel where I share all of my Fungusaurs related stuff. That's all there. And then there's my own stuff, which is Aiman Akhtar 3D. And so I'll share all sorts of random stuff on there. So yeah, hit me up on Instagram and stay in touch. Alright, cheers everyone.